How's it going, everybody? This is Nathan at Kitten Equipment Company, Northern Kentucky's 5-paw premier Kioti dealer. Today I've got an NX cab series, and there's somebody who recently commented and they asked about an NX Walkaround, and I thought I didn't have one, but then I realized I do have one. It's just not been delivered yet. So Aaron, if you see this, thanks for letting me do a walkaround of this tractor. This is Kioti's entry into their very deluxe, think John Deere R Series or Kubota Grand L. It's the best they have to offer in this size. The NX can be bought from 45 to 60 horsepower, and Kioti makes 3 different models. They make 3 models that are 40 to 60 horsepower that are around this size. They make the DK, they make the NS, and then they have the NX, this one. And the NX is the most robust and the most deluxe out of all 3, so I'm going to explain why. It's interesting that they make so many different variants of it, but there's a reason for it. You know, there's different price points and different things that people are going to require. You know, do you need the absolute cheapest 50 horsepower tractor with a cab, or do you want the absolute most equipped tractor with a cab that's 50 horsepower? This one is a 50 horse hydrostat. So we'll start from the front. We'll just talk about the options and features, and then maybe compare it to some of its competition and talk about specs and, you know, why this one might be the best one for you. So we'll start at the front. On the front, we've got skid steer quick attach, like normal. Every Kioti loader has that now. This one's got some pallet forks sitting on it currently. The most handy tool you can have. You should, if you're going to buy a tractor, you should get a set of pallet forks. They're awesome. The KL6010 loader that this thing has lifts 2,761 pounds to full height. So I usually will describe it as, you know, let's say that you need to get a ton out of the back of a truck, right? You need, like, you're getting a ton of feed or a ton of pellets or 1 ton of anything getting delivered. This is the first tractor that will reliably get that, and you don't even really need counterweight to do it. It'll lift a ton out of the truck without the rear end coming up off the ground. I mean, it's a hefty, true 2,700 pounds of loader lift. It's awesome. It's a quick attach loader, just like normal, has the same quick attach system that they all have. So the whole loader comes on and off very easy. It does come with the grill guard. That's standard equipment, so that's there. We've got the Kioti steel hood, standard equipment. We all like the steel hoods. There is some argument for plastic, but I think steel is a sign of a little higher dollar, a little more quality, so that's on there. The front axle down here is a planetary bevel gear front axle, very solid, very thick. The power steering is all armored and protected. Everything's greasable. Very nice sit up there. We've got the cab sit up, and we're going to come to that last because there's all kinds of stuff inside those cabs that the NX has so many bells and whistles. We'll go over them last. We've got the fuel tank, which sits in the normal spot, which is underneath. It is armored, and just like the other Kiotis, the loader has the bar that runs back and slides under the tractor. So if you come up on something really hard, chances are it hits that bar before it hits anything above it. But the fuel tank is also armored as well. I've never had somebody break one. People ask me all the time, is that really breakable? And I guess, yes, it could be where it's at, but out of the hundreds and hundreds of tractors that are out there that have that, nobody's ever broken one yet. So they've done a good job placing it. We've got, on the back, we've got steel fender. Oh, you know, I'm sorry, this is the cab. This is fiberglass. So on the open station, there's a steel fender, but when you go to the cab model, this is a fiberglass piece. And then this is actually, if you look, this is a separate piece. This is a very common break point on one of these. So if you break this one and rip it off, you can just replace it instead of having to replace the whole fender that's actually sealed and part of the cab. The cab on the outside, you've got rear work lights standard. You've got all your turn signals and brake lights. That's all standard equipment. There's extra accessory room, like up here, you're gonna notice a plug. Let me see if I can get the phone up there. So this plug has 12 volts of power that come on. There's beacon lights that'll go on there. You can put other lights on there. On the back we have, this is a category 1 3-point hitch, but if you actually, if you go up to an NX 6010 or 5510, that larger horsepower, they'll go to a category 2 3-point hitch. That's one of the very few differences between the little and the larger NXs. But on the rear end, you've got rear remote standard, although Aaron has added a second set of rear remotes. The first set is standard equipment. So the second set is additional, but the first set is standard. You've got draft control out of the box. So pressure sensing draft control, and this is something that's unique to the NX and the RX as well, external rear hydraulic lift cylinders. So those are kind of considered a heavier, nicer component. You know, it's a little more expensive, it's a little more serviceable. It moves the pressure or the lifting component a little bit closer towards the implement that it's lifting, so it increases the capacity a little bit. Just kind of considered a little more deluxe option. We've got our pin type check chains and our extendable links. We've got a flip up PTO cover. We've got the planetary bevel gear leveler. I mean, everything is the nicest version of what Kioti offers, and this is all standard equipment. The only thing that's not standard back here is that second remote. It has the standard lift lever, so I can raise and lower the 3-point hitch from the back of the tractor. I don't have to walk back around the cab and adjust it. I can do it all right here. We've got 7-pin trailer connector already. We've got windshield washer fluid, because the front wiper does have a sprayer, so it washes. And then let's see what else is back here. Oh, I wanted to go over this. These cabs, and actually some of the open stations too, you're going to notice anywhere that it meets the frame, you've got these buffers. So the ride on this thing is, and even the smaller tractors have this too. This isn't unique to the NX, but it's very visible here. The ride on these things is nice. It's good. It's not a totally rigid, hard steel on steel impact. There are some suspension buffers anywhere the cab is mounted and the tractor's mounted to the frame, so it creates a little bit of a more comfortable ride. And there's a suspension seat too. We're going to go over that. So he's got a 6-foot heavy duty cutter on here. Now this is a Titan 306, so it runs at great 50 horsepower. This 50 horsepower is going to have about 40 at the PTO, or just a little under that, 38 I think. So plenty of power. It can run all kinds of different implements back here. On the cab, I wanted to show this side. I'm not going to walk in the mud, but on this side of the cab, you can get on and off both sides, so that both doors open from the inside and the outside, and there are steps on both sides. So they've got it very well set up. You're not going to be stuck with one door closed on one side, and you have to walk all the way around to the other side to get in, because you can only get in from the left side on some of these. So there's the cab on that side. We'll walk inside. We'll climb in and go over some of the bells and whistles, and a lot of that stuff, like on an NX, a lot of what makes it different than its counterparts is the cab, you know, the inside of it. If you look at it, like a DKSE, the little brother to this model, the cab is a little bit less long. It only has this door. It doesn't have this extra rear window that opens. So the NX cab is actually the same. It's the same cab as what they put on the RX. It's longer, it is wider. Let's get up in here. If you look at the floor, we've got an extremely wide operator station. I mean, I'm 6 foot 250 right now, because my wife keeps feeding me, and I've got plenty of room on the left and right. I mean, it's just, you can see the pedals. The pedals are the same full-size pedals and everything else, and there's, I think that's 6 inches or 7 inches to the door, and on the other side too, there's just plenty of room. So everything's very wide. It's like I'm sitting in a recliner. In the cab, you've got the normal, and the open station is everything from the cab down is the same basically on the open station. So we've got our tilt steering, it's foot operated. We've got our turn signals, lights, and horn, all built in on the stick. We've got road flashers and push button 4-wheel drive, and this is going to be something else. The smaller tractors don't have this push button 4-wheel drive. They're mechanical, right? They have a lever. So you gotta stop and hit the lever, and sometimes roll it in a little bit to get the 4-wheel drive to lock in. Where on this guy, it's a push of a button. You know, you slow down or stop, you hit the button, and it's on. We've got brakes, and the brakes are split. So split brakes. The parking brake lever's right above them. Over here, you've got your beer holder, and then another equipment slot, and then this is actually a fuse box underneath, but they've got this set up to hold stuff as well. 12-volt charger. This is that window that pops out on the side like an old sedan. It's like we're in the 50s. There's the pop-out window. And then the cab is heat AC, air recirculation, and that's back here. So I can hit this lever and I can choose to pull in fresh air or recirculate the current air. It's already wired for sound. They don't have a radio standard equipment sitting. We install a radio usually before they leave here. So you can add whatever kind you want. They're a couple $100. They do have the rear view mirror. You can see me. I didn't realize. Hi. I don't think anybody's ever seen me before on the videos. So rear view mirror, that's standard equipment, sun visor, and then you'll notice all the vents. Everything's vented from the top, so plenty of air vents. The front end of the cab, you've got the wiper, and I wanted to show how big it is, right? We're dealing with a wider cab, so you don't have a reduced visibility. I can see all the way to the end of the loader. I can see out of both sides. I can see through the floor down in front of what might be in front of my tires, right? All of that stuff is very visible and accessible on both sides. So there's that. Over here, we've got the loader control, and this joystick is not the standard factory joystick. This is a third function. Aaron installed that, so this is the joystick that comes with the third function kit, and it's got a 2-button, right? So one button's going to open, one button's going to close a grapple, or vice versa. So loader joystick's in a nice, comfortable spot right on my right hand. Engine throttle, these are the remotes, and you've got 1 and then 2. He put a spring remote in, or I'm sorry, the factory remote is a spring remote, but we added a detent remote that locks so it doesn't fall back to neutral on its own. Up here we've got front and rear cab work lights. We've got the front wiper and then the spray. We've got rear defrost, and then we've got the automatic PTO function. That's pretty interesting. Basically, when I raise the 3-point hitch, if I'm on automatic PTO, it will shut the PTO off. And then when I lower the 3-point hitch back down, it'll turn it back on. So it's basically, if you have a tiller and you get to the end of a row and you're going to turn around, you raise that tiller up, you turn around, it shuts it off, and then when you lower it back down, it turns it back on. Or if you're bush hogging like we are here, you come up on something you don't want to mow, you can quickly raise it up and it'll shut it off. It protects the PTO, it protects other things. But that's standard equipment. It's got the push button PTO right there in your right hand. So that's there. And then you've got this is really what makes an NX an NX, is this control array here. So we've got PTO cruise control, and I've gone over that in other videos. That basically dings how fast the PTO is spinning in the rear, and it will move the engine RPM up or down to keep that PTO spinning the same speed. So if you're going up hills, it'll rev it up. If you're going down hills, it'll rev it down. It'll keep the engine RPM moving how it needs to move. You've got a cruise control, so that's standard equipment. Some of the smaller tractors that don't have the electronic hydrostat that this has, they might have to have a mechanical cruise control added. It's basically, it gets onto the linkage and it snaps on. Whereas this is a computer controlled hydrostat on the NX series. All this stuff is just programmable. It's all standard equipment. So cruise control's in there. This is a dial that controls the sensitivity of the hydrostat, so I can do burnouts or I can do nice gentle movements. Most of the time you just keep it in the middle. This is linked pedal that links my hydrostat pedal with the engine RPM. So the further I press down, it will rev the engine up if I have linked pedal on. And then you've got some cool stuff. You've got a no stall function that will basically, it cuts the engine out before the engine before the transmission can give enough power to kill the engine. So I think I phrased that wrong. It cuts the transmission out before the engine dies, right? So if you start pushing into a pile and that transmission bogs the engine down enough where the engine's going to die, it'll cut out on you. It'll stop driving you forward. So the engine doesn't die, the transmission cuts out, if that makes sense. And then you've got a maximum speed control. Basically, if you want to be able to mash that pedal all the way down to the ground, and you only want to go 1 mile an hour, you can go 1 mile an hour, hit that speed control button, and then you can mash that thing to the ground and it'll only go that fast. So if you're doing a really light, slow movement, and you don't want to use the cruise control, or if you put a junior operator in here and somebody you don't want to take off and go too fast, you can use that function. So all that stuff is standard out of the box. You don't have to add any of it. Something else I wanted to show you. Let's see. Down here we've got, I'm going to raise this armrest up. We've got draft control. So that's the draft control functions right next to the 3-point raise and lower. And then on your back, you've got a nice window you can see down to the rear end. So that's the lower part of the cab. The upper window raises and pops out. So you've got access. You can see back there, you've got air, and then it's got this nice handle. I can pull it back in. The cab is sealed, so I don't know, I mean, on tractor cabs, there's kind of like, you'll have generic field cabs that are, they're kind of loosely installed on the tractor, and it doesn't muffle sound or things that well. Or you've got true factory cabs that are all sealed all the way around, and it really isolates the tractor from the rest. So it's a nice quiet experience. You don't hear too much engine noise. There's a lot of reasons to have a cab. You know, it does have some downsides, and we'll go over those, but you've got noise isolation, you've got the isolation from the elements. It's cold and heat whenever you need it. But another thing is that air recirculation. If you're kicking up all kinds of junk while you're bush hogging, it keeps that out of the cab. So if you have allergies, around here in Kentucky, allergies are just notoriously bad. It really saves you from that. The downside to a cab is getting in and out of it. You know, if I'm jumping on and off of a tractor constantly, I don't want to have to open the door and then close the door and then repeat that process over and over again as I'm jumping in and out. An open station's a little bit easier for that. Or if I'm in a real precarious area where I've got trees and stuff sticking down, it can be a little bit, it can make you a little nervous whenever you've got this nice expensive cab and you've got these tree branches coming up next to it. So those would be downsides, but everything else is really a benefit. I mean, cabs are awesome. Let me see, am I forgetting anything in here? I don't think so. Oh, one thing, it is a 3-range hydrostat. So high, medium, and low range, you just change right there, and then the hydrostat control. Differential lock, and then 3-point speed control. So that's it. So as far as like pricing on these things, right? This is going to compete against, like I said, John Deere R series, Kubota Grand L series. I would gladly have you spec it and compare it to all those models. And these things with a cab, right? With a cab, they're going to start in the mid 30s, and they'll finish up in the low 40s, with the loader, with the tires filled, whatever tire you want. I mean, they are, for the money, they beat everybody. Price everything out there. I highly encourage it. It's, for what it is, it really does kill the competition. And it has some other things that really set it apart from its smaller counterparts, right? So I usually will tell people an NX is size and weight. You know, it's a little bit bigger and has a little bit more heft than its smaller counterparts. It has all kinds of options and features than its smaller counterparts, but there's some other things too, like little weird things that this thing has that the smaller tractors don't. I usually will point out the hood latch. Watch this. The hood latch on the smaller tractors is a little hook you have to pull. So you pull a little hook and the hood pops up. On this guy, it's a nicer latch that automatically opens. You just hit the button and it comes up. So even things like the hood latch are a little nicer, higher quality. It's just all that stuff. And for a $4,000 or $5,000 difference, it may be worth it to you compared to let's say you had a DK 5010 or 5310 SE cab. This is probably going to be $4,000 or $5,000 more expensive than that, but this is all the stuff that you get for it. While I have the hood open, all the stuff, the serviceability, you know, how easy is it to access everything? You've got the battery, air filter, radiator screens, coolant overflow, that's all right there. Over here, we've got engine oil filter. Engine oil dipstick is, you can't see it from this angle. Where is she? There she is. Engine oil dipstick, and then fuel filter. All that stuff is, I mean, you can even get to it with the loader on. You don't really have to take anything off or move anything. Very standard accessible service, just like on the smaller models. So that is a DK quick walk around. I probably forgot some stuff. There's all kinds of information on them, but I wanted to blabber at you a little bit about it because I've got them here and it's finally set up. We have a few other ones. There's a 4510 we have still crated. We've got many more coming on the way. So if you're interested in any, and you want to purchase from us here in Kentucky, just give us a call, 859-356-9091. My name's Nathan, I'm the sales manager, so feel free to talk to me or anybody else. Again, we are Northern Kentucky's premier 5-paw Kioti dealer, 15th largest in the country as of right now, so give us a call. Oh, KentonEquipment.com, that's where you'll see this thing. If you want to price these, I've got them up on the website, or if you don't see something you're interested in, just email us or give us a call. KentonEquipment.com, 859-356-9091. Thanks.